All right, today we are jumping into the incredible story of one of the most powerful and kind of paradoxical ideas in all of human history. We're talking about the number 0. It's this wild story of how the idea of nothing completely transformed, well, everything. So let's get right into it.
So, let me just start by asking you a question. If you had to name the single most important invention, like ever, what would you pick? You know, the wheel? Fire? The printing press? Yeah, all incredible answers, for sure. But what if the most important invention wasn't actually a thing at all?
What if the most game-changing idea we ever came up with was the idea of nothing? That's right, the concept of 0. It sounds so simple, right? But the lack of it, man, it held humanity back for centuries. And when it finally showed up, it completely changed the world. To really get why 0 is such a hero in this story, we've got to imagine a world that just didn't have it. I mean, for thousands of years, civilizations were building pyramids and writing these epic poems, all without a mathematical way to represent the absence of something. I mean, of course, people could still talk about nothing. A farmer could totally say, I don't have even one sheep. The idea was there in language, but how would you write that down in an equation? How could you do 3 minus 3 on an abacus and show what's left? You just couldn't. There was no symbol for it. The Babylonians got really close around 400 BC. They used this symbol. It was basically just 2 slanted lines to show an empty column in their numbers. Think of it like the space you'd need in the number 106 to show there are no tenths. But that's all it was, a separator. It was like a piece of punctuation, not a number you could actually add or subtract. It was just a stand-in for an idea they hadn't quite nailed down yet. So if the ancient world was struggling with this, where did our hero finally come from? This is the origin story. This is where the idea had to be born, transforming from just a simple placeholder into a true mathematical powerhouse. And this brings us to 0's 2 incredible superpowers. Okay, so first, it acts as the anchor for the entire number line, right? It's that perfect point separating all the positive numbers from the negative ones. And second, it's a placeholder that gives every other digit its value. The 0 in the number 10 is what makes it 10 instead of just 1. This dual identity is exactly what makes it so revolutionary. And this timeline, it perfectly lays out that whole journey. You can see the early placeholder idea over in Babylon. Then, totally independently, the Mayans actually developed a true 0 around 300 AD. But the version that ended up taking over the world, that story starts right here, in India, before traveling through Persia and finally making its way to Europe. So think of this as our map for the rest of this explainer. So the huge breakthrough moment happens in India. In the year 628 AD, a mathematician named Brahmagupta did something that was just extraordinary. He actually wrote down the rules for doing math with nothing. He laid it out. A number minus itself equals 0. This was the first time 0 was treated like a real number, not just an empty space. And he gave it a symbol, a simple dot. This was basically the moment 0 was officially invited to join the number club. Okay, so with its new official status as a number, 0 was ready to go global. But it needed a champion, someone to carry the idea from India out into the rest of the world. And that champion was the brilliant Persian mathematician Al-Khwarizmi back in the 9th century. He and other incredible scholars during the Islamic Golden Age were studying the work of Brahmagupta. They adopted this new decimal system, with 0, and they spread that knowledge through their incredibly influential books. They are the absolute crucial bridge that carried this idea westward. So if we look back at our map here, we can see the next critical steps. From Persia, Al-Khwarizmi's books were eventually translated into Latin. And by the 12th century, this Indo-Arabic numeral system started to trickle into Europe, where, let me tell you, it was about to challenge the old way of doing things in a big way. And when it finally arrived and people started using it, it wasn't just some small update. The arrival of 0 was like upgrading from a horse and buggy straight to a sports car. It completely changed the speed and the power of human thought. Just look at this comparison. Before 0, everyone in Europe was using Roman numerals. I mean, just try multiplying CXII by XV. It's a total nightmare. You needed a tool like an abacus for even the most basic math. But with this new place value system powered by 0, suddenly you could do really complex math quickly and easily right there on paper. It just unlocked so many new possibilities in every single field. This one simple change, it just unlocked a whole new world.
zero became the foundation for everything from algebra to calculus. It completely revolutionized banking and commerce because it made accounting so much simpler. It was absolutely essential for the precise calculations you need in astronomy and physics. And of course, the entire digital world we live in today is literally built on just two numbers, 1 and our hero, 0. But the story doesn't stop there. Zero's journey continues right into our world today in a way that might actually surprise you, connecting this ancient idea to, well, the biggest company on the internet. The connection really starts with a simple concept. We all know the 0 in 10 makes the 1 10 times bigger, right? It's an amplifier. It gives other numbers their scale and their power. So what happens when you just keep adding zeros? Well, back in 1920, a mathematician named Edward Kasner asked his 9-year-old nephew, Milton, to come up with a name for a really, really big number, a 1 followed by 100 zeros. And Milton's suggestion? A googol. And this is what a googol looks like. That right there is a 1 followed by 100 zeros. The sheer visual scale of it is just staggering. This is the power that 0 unlocks. The ability to not just think of, but to write down numbers on a scale that is almost impossible to even imagine. And if that name Google sounds a little familiar, well, it should. The founders of the search engine Google were inspired by that term. They picked it to signify the absolutely massive amount of information they were trying to organize. Yep, the most powerful information company in the world is named after an idea made possible by our hero, the number 0. So, from a simple placeholder to the inspiration for Google, 0 proves that sometimes the most powerful ideas are the ones that represent what isn't even there. It kind of makes you wonder, what's the next concept of nothing that we haven't even conceived of yet, that's just waiting to change the world all over again?